reminder to make sure that your mic is plugged in so you don't have to film the same video twice. Hello my lovely friends, it's Margaret. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to the final day of the 12 Days of Margaret. Thank you so much for joining me again for this little bit of end of the year content. Today we are going to be talking about my favorite books for 2021. So obviously it's the end of the year. It's time to talk to you about the books that have stayed with me for, in some cases, the entire year. The books that I kept thinking about, kept coming back to. Now, I do want to say that these are not in any particular order for the most part, at least not until we get to the top 3, which was a very difficult decision to make. If you are interested in my worst or most disappointing books of the year, that was yesterday. I'll have that linked up top. You can go check it out. So number 10 on this list is I'm Still Here, Black Dignity in a World Made for Whiteness by Austin Channing Brown. This is a memoir about Austin Channing Brown's time. I mean, just in general, being a black woman, for the most part, it does focus on her time in the evangelical church and how being in that predominantly white atmosphere really affected and impacted her. There are a lot of systems that were put in there because of white supremacy that we have not removed from the church. There is a prioritization of white as the normal, the neutral, and she really gets into why that is not the case and how we need to really pull away from that, how we need to start looking at things differently. I really thought that this was so well written. There's a lot that I highlighted. I do have a vlog if you would like to hear some of what she's written. I do read some of those passages aloud. It was a lot to think about. It was a lot to sit down and examine in my own life and to go, okay, have I been a part of any of these things? And the answer is yes. The answer is yes, because I was very unaware for most of my time when I was participating in my church. It has shaped what I look for when it comes to faith and when it comes to community. It really has, there just is a lot in here, and I think that especially if you're a white Christian, but basically anyone who is white should read this. The next book that we need to talk about, number 9, is A Song of Race and Ruin by Roseanne Brown. I'm so excited to have finally read this. This is about Karina and Malik. Malik has had to make a deal with some evil supernatural demon creature thing because his sister has been kidnapped by this creature, and he has made a deal to kill Karina in exchange for getting his sister back. Karina needs the heart of a king to bring her mother back, and this all happens in the context of this competition that is happening that is very important to Karina and her people and their religion. And so Malik ends up getting put into this competition, and so she is going to be interacting with him a lot, and she's having to choose who wins. She decides the winner gets to marry her because she needs a king whose heart she can cut out. Obviously, the highlight of this for me was the relationship at the center of it. I need a ship. It was here. It delivered. It was really, like, it's slow burn. They don't meet for a really long time in the book, and I'm okay with that because there is so much other stuff that is going on with them, and I know that there's another book where all of that can be worked out and developed, and I'm not sure how that's going to happen, but I am excited to see how it happens. I really liked Roseanne Brown's world building. I love the different things that you could see her pulling from to create this city and this culture, and I liked how she really just sits, like, there's so much that she examines through this. There's so much that's interesting about this world. I liked Malik and Karina as characters. I think that she did a really good job of doing a fantasy setting with YA characters who were acting pretty much like the way a teenager probably would act in these situations. It felt real, it felt authentic, it felt like their frontal lobe was still developing and they're still, like, they're making bad decisions, but they're still trying to do their best. They're so messy. I love them. Malik is just a cinnamon roll that would not hurt anyone and is in a situation where he needs to hurt someone, and Karina has so much going on. Like, there is just so much going on for this girl. She doesn't want to be queen. She's lost her mother. She's also dealing with the trauma of having lost her father and her sister when she was young. And, like, there is a lot going on. I have heard that it is really good anxiety representation. I can't speak to that, but I have friends who have said that it really does hit home with how they experience anxiety. It is also put out as, like, migraine rep, and from what I understand from friends, it is not good migraine rep. There's, like, reasons for that, but it's marketed as that, and it's weird. If you are looking for a fantasy series, if you want a little bit of angst, if you want a little bit of drama, if you want a whole lot of just dealing with stuff going wrong around them and none of the plans going right, pick this series up. Number 8 on this list is Firekeepers Daughter by Angeline Boulet. This is about Donis. She is Anishinaabe, and she finds out that there is a very potent strand of meth that has been making its way through her community. It's been traced back to Sugar Island, which is where she and her father's family are from. She gets pulled in as a confidential informant because not only is she good at like chemistry and kind of has the technical skills that she would need to be able to recognize the different things she would need in this investigation, she also has a very impressive knowledge of Anishinaabe traditional medicine. And so they bring her in. They're like, hey, we want you to help us figure out where this came from and how we stop it. There is so much going on in this book. There are so many layers. It really digs into what Donis's everyday life is. It digs into the like strength and joy and wonder that she gets from her community. It deals with the racism and bigotry that she has to deal with from family members in some cases because her mom and her mom's family are white. It was refreshing to see that her mom was very invested in making sure that Donis was involved with her father and with her father's community once he passed away, being able to participate and be knowledgeable about the Anishinaabe traditions that her father grew up with. A lot of the time you will see parents that kind of, like, I've seen so many books where the parents separate their child, and her mom didn't do this, and it was really nice to see that. There is so much that happens in this book. The tension is pulled throughout this book, and there's like so many things where you're waiting for the answers and you get answers, but then that leads to more questions, and it just was really well done. This is a debut, and you cannot tell that it is a debut. I actually thought that this couldn't have been the author's first book. Highly recommend. It is also a very sad book. Like, there are wonderful moments where like we're seeing her and the strength that she gets from her community, but there are also some very sad things. There's just tragedies that also happen to Donis personally. She has lost a lot of people in her life. She's had to deal with a lot of crap in her life, and we see her have to deal with even more in this book. It's a little frustrating, but everything that was put in here, like, it was in there for a purpose and for a reason. I liked that it was handled so well, that it was handled with intention, because I've seen people try and do that to characters, try to give characters stories and put them through things the way that Donis goes through things in some of this, and it just ends up being too much. It ends up being egregious, and I didn't feel that way reading this book. So book number 7 is The Heart Principle by Helen Huang. This is the 3rd book in the Kiss Quotient trilogy, and it is by far the best book in the trilogy. It's also the hardest to read because there's just a lot of ableism in here. There is a lot of triggering family dynamics in here, and yet it was so worth the read. It's about Anna and Quan. Quan we met in the 1st book. He's been in all of the books at this point, and we love him. Nothing bad should ever happen to him, and yet Helen Huang happened. I'm still mad about it. I'm still mad about it. It did not stop me from enjoying the book, though. Anna is dealing with a lot going on in her life. She went viral as a violinist, and so she's been doing this tour, and all kinds of opportunities have been landing her way, and she is dealing with the fact that she is very, like, she's getting kind of burnt out, and she's playing herself in circles. Like, she's getting caught up and getting way too analytical and not being able to actually play and do what she does, like, what makes her money. On top of all that, her boyfriend's like, hey, before we get married, I kind of want to, like, see other people. I want to do an open relationship. Is that okay? And she's like, sure. She is upset about this, but she decides to take it as an opportunity to herself, see other people, try and get out of a rut, and she decides she's going to have some one-night stands. Quan is her first attempt. And I stress the word attempt. They end up going on multiple dates because every time they try to go on a date and anything happens, it just, something gets in the way of it, and so it's just a disaster, but they really like each other, so they keep trying, and it is adorable. This is not a light, fluffy rom-com. I do think it's still a romance, to the probably consternation of a few people, but I do think it's still a romance, but it is not light and fluffy. Anna is dealing with a lot of ableism, as I said, from her family specifically, especially with the fact that when she kind of starts to realize that autism might be a diagnosis for her, her family is not supportive of that at all. Stuff happens in this book, and her family just in general truly does not make any effort to understand Anna and her needs and what she is good at, and it was really frustrating to see her deal with that. I did really connect with her as far as the creative burnout went. Just, I've been there. I'm still kind of dealing with it, and sometimes yeah, it's tough. I highly recommend this series. I love it so much, and I am so glad that I ended up reading the first book, and now here we are. The next book that we need to talk about is the final book in the Graceling series, Winterkeep by Kristin Cashore. I ended up reading this as part of Sarah the Dreamer's Graceling Along, I think is what we called it. It was in January, guys. I don't really remember that much from the beginning of most of the year, actually, let's be honest. This is about a whole bunch of people, but mostly it is about Gideon. We met him in the first book, which is Graceling, and he's dealing with the fact that there has been this, not shipwreck, but there was an accident on the ship, and now the queen of the country that he has been living in is gone. Kind of was supposed to protect her, and they're having to deal with the fact that she has been swept overboard, and no one knows where she is. They're all pretty sure she's dead. It was so good. The character growth from when we see Gideon in the first book all the way to this book is so wonderful. We love to see that kind of character arc. Like, he really was like the worst, and then became the best. I don't know how that happened. I mean, Poe's still better, but I don't know how he ended up being one of my favorite characters in this series, considering what we had to deal with him in the first book. But I loved this. We have a couple of other points of view in here, and it was really good the way that Kristin Cashore did this, because I mean, like, I wasn't as invested in this other character, but I wasn't mad about having them in the story, because I knew that they were going to be influential to the part of the story that I was invested in. Like, I could see their ties to what I thought was happening and where I wanted the story to go. And so I really, like, it was another layer to this world that Kristin Cashore created in the first book and, like, brought us through for the last 3 books. I liked that. I liked a lot of the things that she had to say in this book. There was a lot that she had to say about, like, climate change and things like that, and power structures, and she really has a lot to say about those, like, throughout the entire series, and I love it. And she does such a good job of having really interesting, nuanced characters and nice romances. I like her romances. She does really good romances, even if sometimes certain love interests make me want to kind of be annoyed at them. They do eventually mend their ways. But actually, they pretty quickly mend their ways and are like, yeah, I was a jerk about that, so I'm sorry, I will be different. And then they are different. It's number 5. Is one of the most delightful books. I am so glad that I finally got this off of my physical TBR. I'm actually kind of mad that I waited as long as I did, because, like, the hype was honestly not there. I don't understand why more people are not talking about this book. It is so good. If you like K-dramas, you will like this book. This is about Gumiho and Jihoon. Gumiho is a Gumiho. If you don't know Korean mythology, that is basically a woman who is also a fox spirit. I'm not entirely, like, in this one, I don't think they turn into foxes. I think there is some element, there may be elements in, like, the actual mythology where they do, but in this particular one, Gumiho and her mother do not turn into foxes. The thing about being a Gumiho is, though, that she has to feast on the souls of the living. Like, she has to kill people in order to survive. And she's not cool about with that, but she does her best to kind of make sure that she is not killing people who don't deserve to be killed. She tries to go after awful people. And then we have Jihoon, and he has no idea that this supernatural world exists until he gets caught up in it one day, and Gumiho has to save his ass. In doing so, she kind of ends up losing the thing that contains her soul, her fox speed, and they end up having to team up to figure out how to get it back in her body, because it is having, not good things are happening to her because she does not have her soul in her body. It is doing strange things and she's not used to it, and it's making it harder to live the lifestyle that she wants to live and not be what she considers a monster. The angst in this is real, y'all. It was so just good. I enjoyed so much of it. There are a little bit at odds at the beginning, and then they kind of have to be like, okay, well, we have to work together, and they kind of start to like each other, and then it's like, I really like you, and I kind of want to make out with you, and I loved that progression to where they are and having to go through all of this stuff, and, like, there's a lot of time that happens, and they've got a lot of time to sit with their feelings, and I really appreciate that we get that. I loved them as characters. I love the side characters that we get in this. She does such a good job of building them and making everyone real, fleshed out characters. She does such a good job just with certain elements of Myung's story and things that she has to deal with and things that she doesn't know about and that she ends up finding out in this book. I love the way that Cashore was able to take the mythological and put it in the modern world. It really seemed like this is a world where Gumihos could be living under the radar. A world where the Dekebi could be running little stores and you wouldn't even know that you were walking into a demon's shop until you walked in. It was just, so well done. I loved the way that she brought everything together and created this world, and her world building was so, like, just, it was good. It was immersive. I felt like I was in there and I was a part of the story. I loved it. The next book that we are going to be talking about is one of my most anticipated reads of 2021. I knew I was getting this book right away. I knew I was going to love it, and that is Concrete Rose by Angie Thomas. Angie Thomas continues to be one of my favorite authors. She blew me away with The Hate You Give, and she has not, like, every single book that she has released since has been just everything that I wanted from a book. So this is the prequel to The Hate You Give. It is about Star's father, Maverick, and he is dealing with the fact that he's just found out that he is a father. He thought the kid was his friend's, and in fact, it is his kid. Read The Hate You Give, you know why this has happened. If you haven't, I'm not going to get into it so you can discover it in the book. But he's dealing with this. He's dealing with the fact that he's 17 and now a father, and having to also juggle school and a job and all of this stuff. He is dealing just with so much as a teenager, and you really, especially having read this and read The Hate You Give, I think if you've read both of those books together, it really, like, drives home how generational trauma works. If you're not familiar with that concept, read this and read The Hate You Give, and then do some Googling. You can also do the Googling first, but, like, sometimes I think it helps to start with fiction and go from there. She continues to be a just master at balancing storylines, at knowing how to, like, how much heavy is too heavy, and knowing when we need a little moment of lightness, when we need a little moment of joy in the book. There is so much that happens in her books, and she does it so well. She, like, the way she is able to craft her plots, they go bam, 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 bam. You are just sucked in, and you're going for a ride. You are not going to be able to put the book down. Also, one of my favorite things is the way she is able to do family dynamics, and just, like, she captures them so perfectly. And she's able to do, like it's a different family dynamic every time, but the way that she does it, it just, like, is wonderful and delightful, and you just can really feel like these people actually own a house and live in your world. Like, they are real people. I love her characters. I love the way that she is able to make you feel for them and connect with them. There's only so much I can tell you, because there are things that I can say about The Hate You Give that will spoil this, and things I can say about this that will spoil The Hate You Give, and it just read them, please. All right, my top 3. As I said, this was very difficult to come up with. And honestly, the number 3 book would have been number 1 if Cassandra Clare had given me what I wanted, but she did not. And that would be Chain of Iron by Cassandra Clare. This is the second book in the Last Hours series, which is the sequel series to the Infernal Devices series, and there is just a lot going on in, among, and around all of that, but it is about Herondales, and I am always here for a story about Herondales. Just, I don't understand why I am so captivated by the mess that is this family. They are the most dramatic teenagers. They are guaranteed to have issues with their love life as teens. I don't understand. They're so messy, and they're wonderful, and I love them. Long story short, I love this series, and yet, Cassandra Clare refused to give me what I wanted. Hey Google, what is 582 plus 656?
582 plus 656 is 1,238.
1,238 pages. I read 1,238 pages waiting for the one thing, the one moment that I was waiting for, and it still has not happened. Like, the last time an author did this to me, it was Son of Neptune. And Cassandra Clare just looked at Rick Riordan and said, "Hold my beer," and I did love the book, though. Loved it so much. It was so good. She is so good at, like, listen, her plots are messy and they don't always make sense. Sometimes her endings can kind of be a little bit weak because she ends her books, it is always in the same way. It isn't always with some sort of use of angelic power. And it's worked really well a couple of times. And it has also felt like a scapegoat type thing a couple of times. But I don't read for the plot, I read for the characters in this series. I just want to know what is going on with them. I want to be in their world. This book. There's a thing that happens at the end of the last book, and it involves a trope that I really enjoy. Starts with fake, ends with something. And I thought she was going to string us along and not, like, go right into it, and she went right into it, which I really appreciated. She just didn't go right into the thing that I wanted her to go into. I mean, I was expecting to wait most of the book for this to happen, and then it but it didn't. She has always done a fantastic job with characters, with creating friendships, with creating, like, just the angst that Cassandra Clare can create is delicious. I love it so much. This is probably, I think, the most ambitious. We're getting pretty ambitious as far as points of view go, as far as the number of characters that she is involving. I think sometimes maybe she doesn't need as many points of view as she has been including in the last few books, but I don't really care unless they are taking me away from, like, the moment that I wanted to be in. She does that a lot. Like, you'll be somewhere and you'll be like, no, wait, I want to know what, go back, I want to know what happened, go back. And she doesn't go back. All right, book number 2. Probably a lot of you are going to be surprised, and it was really close. But ships are the most important thing for me. That is my excuse. Number 2 is going to be Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. This was so well done. It is about Bree. She is enrolled in this early college program. She's gone off because her mother has just died. She needs some space from home. She needs to be able to be somewhere that she is not going to be basically haunted by her mom's death. And she ends up seeing a thing on campus, this, like, weird mythological looking creature, and she's like, are y'all seeing this? And everyone else is like, no, except for this one guy that gets involved at one point, and she's like, okay, so you see it. And she ends up, through, like, meeting him and talking to him, ends up getting pulled into this, like, magical society, this secret society. It's based on the Knights of the Round Table. They're all descendants of King Arthur and his knights. In getting brought into this society, she also finds out that they may know something that she did not know about her mother's death. And so she's like, all right, fine, I will, in fact, infiltrate this place because I want to know if something fishy happened with my mom's death. This is another one that's, like, got very, like, really good Shadowhunters vibes, where we've got this young girl who discovers that there's kind of, like, this secret world that she wasn't able to see before, and now she can see, and she's getting involved in. I think that it does do a lot of that better than City of Bones did. Just because it's better. Like, there's so much more to this world. So much of this has a purpose behind it, and there is so much history in this. Like, they're really, like, in City of Bones, they kind of touch on the history. This really just delves into the history. It delves into the magic, and it had points to be made, and I really appreciated the way that she was putting those points in the story. I'm not sure how I feel about the ship situation here, because there are a couple ways it could go. I could be fine either way. I could have problems with at least one of them. And I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know if Tracy Deonn is an author I can trust at this point. I've only read one book by her because she only has one book at the moment. I'm hoping the second book will not make me mad and disappoint me, but we'll see. Long story short, it was really good, and I have not been able to stop thinking about it since I read it in January. The ending. I don't want to say anything that will give away this ending, but it was so good, guys. It was just so good. Please just read it. It was so good. It was so good. Okay, I just, like, this is one of those books that, I mean, number one, this book had me going, oh, it's gonna end soon. At the beginning of the month, I was like, oh, it's gonna end soon, and I don't have the second book, and I'm not gonna be okay with this, and so I stopped reading it until it was time to, like, I had to read it for the live show. I've never done that before. Like, I've never been like, I don't want to finish this book, the next book's not out yet. Usually with those, I just wait till the next book comes out before I start reading it. However, this one just, it got me, and then the ending, and, like, I don't know where I was going with that, but it was real, like, it blew me away, basically. That's all you need to know is it blew me away. And the final book that we need to talk about is Babylon's Ashes by James S.A. Corey. This is the 6th book in the Expanse series. I have a review about the Expanse if you want to read it. This is quite possibly the best book so far in the series. Well, it is the best book so far in the series. I'm pretty sure. Like, I thought book 5 was good, and that was the book that I'd been waiting for because it finally had the point of view for my favorite character, and finally we got that, and then we get this book, and just the undertaking that they took in this book, the way that they were able to use so many points of view in this book and still keep the plot line, like, going through. We got good stuff with the characters that we knew. We got more of the characters that were most important to us. It was so well placed. Like, there was not a single moment where, I mean, there were a few moments where you're like, no, go back. But, like, there was not a single moment where you were in someone's head going, why am I here? Like, you knew that something was going to be going on. Like, you could feel it. Like, have you ever had, like, it wasn't one of those moments where it's like, why am I here? It was just like, I know there is something important that is going to be happening here. Like, you could feel something was going to happen. It was going to go towards what you were trying to figure out. They did such a good job of spreading the points of view out and utilizing every point of view that they had at their disposal to its maximum effect, so that the audience knew what was going on, so the audience was involved in the plot. It was so good. I continue to love these books because they are so accessible, I feel, as a science fiction. They are definitely character and plot-driven science fiction. Never have I had a moment in these books where the world building was done at the expense of plot, at the expense of character. There's never been a moment where I've been like, why are we still listening to you talk about this? Like, it is so well done. They integrate it so well into the plot that you don't even know that you're getting info dump. I highly recommend this series. I love it. If you're looking for sci-fi that is going to get you invested in the characters and is going to have a really fast-paced, like, draw you in plot, highly recommend. Those are my favorite books from 2021. My favorite things that I read this year. I'm so happy to have read every single one of these. I'm just like, it makes me happy that they are there. If you are feeling chatty, please let me know in the comments. What is your favorite book from 2021? I would love to hear about it and see if maybe I would check it out. If you are not feeling chatty and want to let me know that you watched to the end of the video, go ahead and leave the 100 emoji down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also, if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and check out some of the videos that are over here. You may be interested in them. You may enjoy them. And if you liked these videos and you liked this video and you are new here, consider hitting that subscribe button that's right over here. Or if you are not new and you haven't done so yet, hit that little bell icon, please, and thank you. That is it for now, my friends. Happy reading, and I will see you later when we will talk about more wordy, nerdy things. Bye!